Everyone, and welcome to the first council meeting of 2024. So happy new year, and a very warm welcome to members of the public. It's always great to have people here in the chamber. I'll just open us with our council prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask for wisdom, discernment and your favour as we deliberate on the business of council. Bless our meeting as we work together to improve the lives of the people we serve. We meet to improve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Right. Today I do have an apology from Councillor Johns. He has a bereavement, so he is attending a funeral. And just to note, I'm more than happy to move Councillor Johns' apology. It's the first council meeting that he has missed in 15 years, so I'm more than happy to move that. We choose. Seconded council awards. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right. We do have James Beard that is due in for public forum. James hasn't arrived as yet. So I'll just move through some of the meeting, and then if the team bring him down, I'll see if we can stop at that point if councillors are happy with that. Thank you. Right, and the notification of items not on the agenda. None. Declaration of conflicts of interest in regards to today's meeting. Confirmation of the minutes. Can I have somebody move that they are true and correct record? Moved Councillor Petty-Weber, seconded Councillor Franklin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. Right, we'll run through those. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just on page 7, there was just a note there about the annual report lying on the table until this council meeting. Wondering if there is going to be any discussion on that, or if that will lie further.
The report remains laying on the table. The Office of Audit New Zealand has been closed and we have heard nothing further from there. It has also been flagged and discussed with the Chair of Audit and Risk. Raj, did you wish to make any comment? Don't have to.
True, Mayor Tracy, you're correct. Audit New Zealand office was closed till late Jan. The team is now picking it up together with Audit New Zealand, reviewing it, and the intention is to bring it back, adopt it, and at the February council meeting.
Thanks, Raj. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. And page 11. Right, thank you. Moving on to the minutes of the Dennevic Community Board. Could I have somebody move that they be received, please? Councillor Ward, seconded Councillor Petty-Weber. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Right, moving on to item 9.1, the Tararua District Council Code of Conduct for elected members. Ellie O'Brien, do you take us through this paper? Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, Your Worship. The requirement of the Local Government Act to have a code of conduct in place for every council in New Zealand. Once it's adopted, it stays in force until it's replaced by the council. So the current code of conduct that the council operates under was adopted at the end of October 2019. And at the beginning of this current triennium, when we gave an update on, all the requirements and the induction for elect members, we said we'd bring it back to council in the early part of the triennium. We've since had a few impacts from weather events and things which impacted staff's ability to divert resources to doing that. So it has been a bit late coming forward, but we have reviewed the existing code of conduct in line with the updated LGNZ template and a few new requirements that have been included and suggested for inclusion, including the for any code of conduct complaints for them to be referred to an independent person rather than come through the chief executive as the council's employee. So that's the proposed code of conduct is included in the agenda for your consideration.
Thanks, Sally. Councillors, the reports there. How would you like to go through this page by page, or would you like to, has anyone got any feedback? We've got the recommendations on page 17, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I'm generally happy with the code of conduct changes that have been suggested. Bar one point that I'd be quite keen to get some extra clarification on. So when we're looking at the independent investigator, totally agree that that it is much more appropriate for it to go through an independent investigator rather than the chief executive. But having a look on page 34 where it talks about the independent investigator, it talks about the power of having a binding ruling. With that, again, totally agree, an independent investigator would be appropriate. I don't necessarily, though, think it is appropriate for someone to be able to make a binding decision on our council. So I would like a little bit more information on the rationale for that, and perhaps I may look at moving an amendment to the recommendations.
Yep.
That's that clause was a recommendation in the template, but it's up to the councils on whether they want to include that or not, or to make it that the independent investigator makes a recommendation to the council. And that's totally up to the council to choose.
Councillor Wallace, followed by Councillor Wards.
Yeah, thank you. In the conclusion there on your paper, Ellie, 8. So there's 3 different which ones you might want to adopt. And then if you read the actual article which has been put forward, got quite a bit of stuff highlighted here. Because there's one point there, it says about talking with the mayor. But if a mayor makes the code of conduct complaint, how does that work? So, and then also on 12.1, the principles, the time frame, i.e. what if we had a time frame and we decided to do it 8 months later after the event, there's also probably some fallout in general. People start thinking why we're waiting. Yeah, so that's a big piece of work. It's a big piece of work. I don't know if everyone's read it cover for cover. So which one of those 3 then? We don't, in the conclusion.
Okay, so Councillor Gilmore has an amendment that he would like to move before that. I think the point that you are referring to when it both mentions the mayor, that is actually if if it doesn't meet that threshold. And I think this tightens that whole process up so that it's independently assessed regardless. So that this process is a lot tighter than what our previous code was, and a lot more clear in direction. So I'll move to council awards, and then Councillor Gilmore, if you get your amendment ready.
Thank you, Worship. I'm very keen to perhaps have some discussion around the implications of us adopting this. I think it's an extremely important guideline to have in operation. I guess I'd kind of like to explore the implications of the actions that might come out of this. And if anyone's, I noticed the West Coast have been dealing with a regional councillor who had a code of conduct decision made, but the outcome of that was he was only able to attend one of the committee meetings. So I'm curious to understand, once a decision's been made, what are the implications for us in a pragmatic way. And I'm also curious to understand the selection criteria around the independent assessor. I think that probably needs some form of what that might look like for us in this district prior to. I appreciate this is at a much higher level, but I think it's important, especially when we promote this through the community board's agenda and having discussions about the implications for us as all elected members, and what behaviours might look like or not look like, and the implications of a decision being made by an independent assessor. So I'm comfortable to discuss further. I'm also comfortable to have it approved at a much higher level, but with the suggestion that whatever we approve, can it please be promulgated and discussed at community board level, and not appear only as an agenda item, and we just. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks for raising that. And you're correct. This is all elected members, which covers both the Eketahuna Community Board and the Dannevirke Community Board. Brian or Ellie, did you want to make any comments around the selection of the initial assessor? And I did note in the document it does refer to having that panel in place prior to adoption. So I did have some query around that. Have you given any consideration to that, Brian? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we've got to give due consideration in terms of that criteria. Probably not required for the code of conduct itself, but on the side to go actually what we deem, and maybe, you know, I'm sort of thinking what advice we can get around suitable independent assessors as well. So yeah, there's a bit of work still to be done in determining that before. Hopefully there's not one that comes up too soon, but you never know. Just in regards to the I guess the penalties and action, there is some of the recommendations in terms of what they could be depending on the seriousness, and that's for this council to determine, well, depending on what avenue you take, whether it's binding or not through the independent assessor. Yep.
Probably something to note too, that much of what is in the proposed code of conduct is the same as what's in the existing. There's only a small amount that's been updated.
I just think sorry, Your Worship, I think it's useful for us to discuss some scenarios and what the implications might mean for us as within the Tararua. So appreciate that's an operational issue still to be resolved, but when we get to that, it'd be good to discuss further.
Thanks, Councillor Wards. and reading the paper, I was trying to think of a scenario where I think some of the recommendations or examples given were a retired chief executive or a retired council politician. I really struggled within, our very connected communities and district that we could get that independence at that level. So I sort of had asterisks beside those myself. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just weighing into this part before we look at the amendment. There was also a suggestion in the paper that perhaps the independent chair of the Audit and Risk Committee would make a good person. My personal view is I think that would be a very, very sound first point of call. Someone who is not part of the everyday governance team, but has some interaction with us and some knowledge of our council and our community. So if we were looking at a panel, my personal preference would be that they would be the first point of call. We've all voted and agreed that person be the independent chair without any objections raised.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. I thought that was very sound. Councillor Long.
For you, Mayor Tracy. Councillor Gilmore, are you referring to the initial assessor? Okay, thank you. You've got it. Yep, I agree.
Are there any further questions or comments before we move? Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. I was just, I find this a little bit ambiguous, really. Some of this, the latter part of this report. It's sort of, you select an independent investigator. We give the investigator the right to make a binding decision. But then we go on to say that we then go on to decide what we can do about it. And then it gives the council, it seems to pass back to us to pick certain things. It's just that bottom end of the report to me is not really that clear. I'll just have a think about it's behind. But I do, Councillor Gilmore, I know that one of the reasons for this is because it was really difficult when it becomes quite a difficult code of conduct decision to make. So you end up around the council table, and it can be quite difficult where you get half thinking one side and half thinking the other side, and you end up trying to make a decision, and it can be you might have to find the mayor making or the chairperson making a one vote decision. And I can see the role of the independent investigator as separate from that action and makes a binding decision and throws it and then recommends it. I can see that being beneficial to creating quite a situation in the council chamber, which has been really apparent around places in New Zealand, West Coast, and Invercargill's had a few of these, and also it's not without some cases to be seen. But be that as it may, I'm just finding this a little confusing at the bottom end here. Actually, just quite honestly, yeah. Just I'll have a bit more of a think of that as I'm going. Thanks.
Chief Executive's just got a comment there, and then I'll follow up.
Thanks, Your Worship, and yeah, valid point, Councillor Sutherland. I think once it's binding, the ability to ask questions and make attachment to those recommendations is probably you can't do it. So we've just had a quick. Yeah, we see your points of it. It goes back to Councillor Gilmore's view that it's not binding, but that with the ability to make recommendations to council, then the rest of it will flow on nicely.
Thanks, Brian. With that, that the recommendation comes back to council, but actually there could, as part of the recommendation, could actually be, what they thought might be appropriate as well. So it just takes that away. So both of those are included. Okay, thank you. That's in your amendment. Thank you, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Sutherland. My lens is quite foggy. I think this needs a bit of homework. I don't sit happy with this at all.
Okay, if I'll come back and see how you're feeling once we've got the amended resolute or the amended recommendation from councillor Gilmore and just see if that, check in with you and see if that fits any better. I think it will make it clearer. Okay, is anything further? Councillor Gilmore, one day I'd dearly love to have the recommendation come up on the screen typed in, because then it would make it easier. Councillor Gilmore, if you, that'd be great.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. So I'm more than happy with 1.1 and 1.2. So I'm looking at amending 1.3. All I would like to add on to this, and if I could speak to it afterwards, Your Worship, that'd be helpful. All I'd like to is keep the amendment as it stands, and then at the end of that sentence, add in with amendments to page 34, replacing binding ruling with recommendation and required with recommend. And let me know if you, sorry.
Amendments to page 34, replacing binding ruling with recommend.
So that was it as the chief executive indicating the need to point out the paragraph. Oh, so it's the same. Am I able to speak to that amendment? Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to move that and to speak to that. So I'll be seeking a seconder for this amendment. I do believe that this addresses some of Councillor Sutherland's concerns. This will still allow an independent investigator to provide recommendations to us, including their assessment. What it does, though, is it stops it from being a binding decision that we may not agree with. If we have an issue with the quality of a report, we have the ability to make a judgment ourselves. Very, very much respect Councillor Sutherland's comments that these can be difficult, but a lot of our decisions can be, and sometimes they may be a close run thing. I'm very happy that our council is not a council that is bogged down in endless code of conduct investigations. But I actually think for any of us, if we were subject to one, that it is important that there is the ability to question one person just making a decision. I always find it really uncomfortable that one person can just make a binding decision on this council, and it dilutes our authority somewhat. So I'm seeking a seconder for that motion.
Okay, councillor Wards.
I'm happy to second when.
Right, we have a mover and a seconder for the amended motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Would you like that recorded? Yep. Okay. Gilmore.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Seen as 1.3, which is what I moved, has been done. I'm also happy to move recommendation 1.1 and 1.2 as written.
Thank you, councillor Gilmore. I was just going to that. We have a recommendation 1.1. Councillor Long, are you wishing to speak to them or to speak to them? Okay.
Mayor Tracy, could you define undischarged bankrupt, please?
Raj here to give us. Raj, can I call on you for a technical definition of undisclosed bankrupt? Accounting question for. I can give it. We'll come back to you with that. That's it. Yeah, I don't want to hang anyone out here. Okay, thanks, Sally.
I believe if someone's been adjudged bankrupt, they have a period of time in which they're not in control of their finances, and This has previously been in council's code of conduct, and it is a requirement of the Local Government Act that council choose whether to put that in, because bearing in mind council's role in governing the finances of the district, it's very important that the people making those decisions are able to do that soundly. That helps. So if someone hasn't completed their bankruptcy period, they're an undischarged bankrupt. then
Thanks, Sally. And the chief executives confirmed that technical definition for it.
It's something that the public being the
Right, so recommendation 1.1, that the report from the Manager of Democracy Services dated the 21st of December 2023 concerning the Tararua District Council Code of Conduct for elected members be received, that the Tararua District Council agrees to include the requirement for elected members who are undischarged bankrupts to disclose the fact as set out in clause 15.5 of the Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002. And we have the 1.3 moved and seconded. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those two recommendations, please? Councillor Franklin and a seconder, Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. And those against? Carried. Okay. Right, thank you, councillors. Could I ask, so operationally, you'll come back to us with a list of those that would be considered for that panel?
come back for resolution.
And we'll share that with councillors as well and make sure everyone's comfortable with that. Okay, right, now I'd like to welcome James Beard for Public Forum. Councillors, I know that's a little bit back to front, but James has travelled some distance to be with us. You want to come forward just into the chair there, and Councillor Ward, thank you. If you could just make sure that mic's working.
Oh, that's right, I'm just coming to see your morning. Yeah. When you want to talk.
Thank you, Sharon.
James, the thing though, we do record these meetings
Oh, that's-
as well, so I just need to make you aware of that.
Video.
Yes, yes, and then it later goes up so that anybody can have a look at it. Yeah. So,
I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm not sorry. I overzealous, like a policeman who doesn't like most of the police departments in New Zealand. So yes, so would have been on time had it not been for an overzealous Hohakia policeman who doesn't like most of the police departments around New Zealand. And I don't like either the MPs or the police, but that's doesn't make me an outlaw. Now, some things have developed since I thought about this, and I have had some success, but horizons are very difficult to deal with. I was lucky because when Garrick was the chair, and he was there at the beginning when they put 21 things together to make that, and I booked a meeting with him for 4 months in advance, and then went overseas for probably family reasons. And so because I was a regular attendee at their meetings, the ones you're allowed to attend, he had arranged for me to get most of the agendas, which comes to a lot of paper. And and he also, it was particularly the regional transport, which includes not only road but also rail, which I put my 5 minutes time, I think. Okay. I got thinking about this, trying to get to Castle Point Well, actually, it was the Lazy Greys that I was going to regularly in Ekatahuna and realised, oh, Ekatahuna's awfully friendly town, almost up friendly as yourselves, but maybe not so much Paeatua. I don't know which councillors for there. I nearly had my car stolen because I left all my stuff on the table in the coffee shop, and then I got my things back, but not the key returned. So that was a bit weird. But in Waikan, I left the key all day at the railway station and went to Wellington on the train. $14 to get into Wellington when you're going before 9 o'clock is too much, and it was only going to be 7 continuing after the COVID, but that's the way it is. So I'd like to talk about the rail too, if I finish this quickly enough. The thing was that I was not, the problem is that the mayor knows that they only meet every 90 days approximately, and was scheduled for a different day to what they actually did, and I think it ended up on Monday. Did you go, Mayor Tracy? Yes. And I'm not allowed to go to those at the moment. I don't know why. They don't say. The Ombudsman want the paper trail that doesn't exist, and the guy that wrote what he did couldn't even spell Wanganui or Manawatu, so it'll be some nasty person, better not say their name, a former mayor perhaps, but we'll solve that eventually, I think. And so this particular time was not one of those meetings, but another one that they possibly hold every 2 years, but not always. And I wanted to talk about state highways north of Shannon. And so next time I went to the regular, when police didn't do road safety, this gentleman works in the PNCC. He says, oh, your one's been approved. And then I talked to the Higgins workers, and $2.5 million is a bit of a shock to the system when you've only spoken for 5 minutes, and your proposal's better than the new traffic lights in front of the internal ring roads that they still didn't really need in Palmerston North. So that'd be a long time ago. And then I happened to ring up Mr. McKelvey, who's MP for, well, he wasn't MP when he started for Shannon, it got enlarged. And he said, oh, no, now you can't pass, and just scoffed at me. But then I talked to Jill White, who probably done more than he in the red team. And she said, well, he's like that. It's not very nice. But I must have had 50 meetings with him in 12 years. And basically nothing happens because the rich man doesn't really care. Anyway, perhaps I shouldn't have said that. So there you can see that from Alfreton, it's a nice way to get to Castle Point, but it is unsealed a lot, and most of yours is done, in fact. And so if you go on the sealed roads, it's an extra 40K, and I think you can get it for nearly free. Well, NZTA and Wellington have recently moved, so I haven't exactly found their offices, but they've got underground car parking, which they didn't have in Chews Lane. But they don't welcome you very much there. You've got to go to the meetings. Well, the one you go to is not quite enough, Tracy, and I don't know that Masterton, seems to me it's the sort of town, I better not say that if it's recorded. Yeah, you need to talk to Horizons as well as NZTA and somebody that could get along with Masterton people, because they've got more unsealed than you have. If you've got any, I don't know, I can't tell, because there's no sign like there is on another way near Lawrenceville, where you know you've reached the saddle, even though it's pretty much flat land, near where they want to put those pylons, power that locals don't want. So another thing occurred to me. No, I'll do the train first. A busy engine driver struck somewhere or other. And I said, well, what could you do to fix up the line between Masterton and Dannyburg? And he said, oh, concrete sleepers would be a good thing to do, first step. And maybe one day you get the train go back to Hawke's Bay. But that would be 200 million, so concrete sleepers, all the way to Palmy to Wellington is not 100% done, but it sort of works. And there's a whole lot of trains coming that Dannyburg could get access to when things fall over. And people might travel across to Woodville and take the train that way instead of every day. But the present train's pretty boring, especially when the bells are ringing and stop the train now and has to get manually overridden. And also move to your district when the road's finished, though I do worry. Remember when I was a boy and Mangawekas, the Greywacke keeps slipping forever and 15, 20 years at least. And I have walked this side, your side, and it's a fault line full of Greywacke and earthquake or just slipping. That road will close a lot. And so there might be an easy way to get Paetua track made a state highway, because people aren't going to want to go back to the saddle road after they get the new road. Well, I will probably go that way. And I don't use TG Road anymore because of unreasonable fines coming down when you're driving safely, and the police have got rocks for the runaway vehicles. But it's the B trains around you that you don't want to do it another way. And then suddenly magically at Mackay's, they didn't finish the road, and it's financially dangerous in both directions. So we're still paying France and Australia for a road that shouldn't have been built that way, in my opinion. No one can get up the road, it's too steep. And then one day I was coming back from Waitangi-Rua and Pahatanui junctions are too close together, if you think about it. And then there's about 6 or 7 or 8 possibly future on and off ramps where you're not allowed to stop if you're sleepy. It's a long way to get to the Kapiti from, well, I'm coming on at Waitangi-Rua and there's police around there all the time because of that royal. Yeah, why are the MPs and the police royal in New Zealand? I don't get it. Anyway, this guy was hand videoing. He was hiding in the on-ramp at Waitangi-Rua and photographing the cars going by. And I wanted to ask him about the lane change assist in my Toyota. And well, it turns out I went to talk to them, and your police station is more friendly than Palmerston North Police Station. It's horrible. So if I do an official information request, the sergeant says, oh, I think you could teach me something about trespass. Yes, probably I could, because it's totally unreasonable. It's rich people that want to get on with collecting filthy lucre, and they don't even know about something Gandhi said, that the customer is the most important person on the premises. Without his or her presence, our work has no meaning. But someone like Norwood, nah, they're mad. They shouldn't even have the Kubota dealership that they have. And Trevor here, that does Kubota, had it long before them. So back to the train maybe, or stop.
Yeah, so James, you are out of time. I've
Okay.
given you a little bit of
That's
extra time.
Yeah.
I'd make a couple of comments just around the train.
Yes, the train.
The line is used between Dannyburg and Pahiatua. It is the link between Wairarapa and the Ekirahona, and I did live very close to
Like very low speed.
one of them, so risk it's about 5 kilometres an hour, but your timing's good. So a couple of things just to make you aware of. So the Regional Land Transport Committee, they have just started live streaming all their meetings, so you can actually. Okay.
I've been at meetings of Manawatu District Council and those with COVID. It's a waste of time even watching the video. Even being in the room when they video into the thing, I don't believe. And the problem with this lane changing software is exactly that video. And it videos the white lines on either side. Everyone got a recently purchased car. It can be forward. Like the unsworn officer at your police station said, yes, well, I've got one of them. And Toyota don't want to turn it off. So this Hohakia policeman was listening to this when he was unwilling to give me a warning for driving safely. He wants to help me turn it off. I don't know that he can.
Okay. So
Yeah, it's dangerous, frankly.
With the regional land transport plan,
Yes.
that'll open up for submissions. So all of those submissions are read and.
Yeah, but it depends on Michael.
So,
He
actually,
doesn't want to see me again, I don't participate.
and there are 3 governors that sit on that panel and hear those, so they will be heard. Councillor Franklin also sits on our passenger transport committee there as well.
Yeah, but the NZTA listen to public more than you guys, unfortunately.
So through that process, they can't. That's all I can encourage you to do, James.
Talk to your councillors.
Is to make your submission through the regional land transport plan. So that's through Horizons Regional Council. If you want to give that submission to me, I can put that in for you.
Well, one thing I learned from Gary, the thing is, it's better if they don't know what you're going to talk about in advance. So Garrett wouldn't let me leave until I've written down in my notebook, I wish to make a submission and I wish to speak to my submission. But other submitters will laugh at me, but it works.
No, look, I guess Garrett's been gone for a wee while, but if any submission.
But way he was stabbed in the back was mean. And I felt for him and I went to his farm 5 times till I found him.
Excuse me, you will leave the controller behind, the black bit in your hand.
In your
In
hand.
your hand.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
I was watching, sorry.
What would I use that for? Thank you very much.
Thank you, James, for your time. Right, thank you, councillors. Right, we will now move on to item 9.2, request for information processed under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. Ellie, did you wish to make any comment? Otherwise, I'll take the report as read. Okay, so we've got a recommendation on page 55 that the report from the Manager of Democracy Services dated the 10th of January 2024 concerning the request for information processed under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act be received. Moved Councillor Wallace and seconded Councillor Gilmore. All those in favour, please say aye. Motion is carried. Right, then we move on to the Mayoral Relief Fund and the criteria, item 9.3. Brian, did you want to speak to this paper? And then I'm happy to.
Yes, through your worship. So in front of you is the report recommending that the amounts for individuals and community groups be extended. I just want to highlight that there's no science behind the amounts put in front of you. They are merely a starting point, I think, for a discussion. A little bit will be around some of the previous applications that have come through to the Mayoral Relief Funds, being that they couldn't really assess them due to the amount that they were asking for. So through your worship, it's really now up to council to discuss those amounts should you want to increase them.
Councillor Wards and Councillor Peter Webber.
Thank you, Worship. I'm in full support of this. Having seen the impact of Gabriel in the past year, especially on the rural sector, that you'll know that I care for deeply. I'm well aware through discussions with farmers that the limits that we initially set, and it was a bit of a suck and see at the start. So I'm grateful that we've come back to revisit the application and approval of people that have thought seriously about submitting to this, but concerned at the level of expenditure that would be required to rectify it and help them recover. So I'm in full support of this. I'm grateful that there's been some thinking and some advocacy to bring this back to our table. And I know that there are people out there that if they have not submitted prior, they may well be seriously thinking, actually, this will certainly help me. It's almost a year on to the day, isn't it? And so I think this was a very timely paper to come before us. So I'll be happy to move the recommendation following discussion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Wards, Councillor Peter Webber, and then Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Worship. I have read through this paper, and the balance being at 185K, I think that it was probably a little bit too high. In my that we could help more people if it was a little bit lower in the amounts. But that's just my opinion, because if you go, like, you could help 18 people at $10,000 each, and I know you guys don't always give out the full amount, so you may adjust depending on how many applications you get. This could help also a few people who missed out on the on-track fund or didn't get quite enough. This could help them as well to bump up that amount. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion, and yeah, open to discussion, of course.
Thanks, Councillor Petty Weber. Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Having been involved in this from the start, I'm absolutely 100% in favour. I just need it clarified in my mind, because the way it's worded, it doesn't make it clear. This is going to be retrospective as well, that we go back and revisit the ones we've already played and top them up to that level? Or is that all they're getting and they've got to reapply?
My preference would be that they would reapply, that this would be widely advertised. As we've gone through the process in the Mayoral Fund, we have flagged some. It's very, very clear that the $2,000 maximum that we have given is a real drop in the ocean, and we have flagged that. But I think, in fairness, there's also people that haven't applied to this fund that need equal opportunity. So, in my opinion, I'd be looking to open this up widely and try and capture some of those again that haven't applied. I think that these would be, in my mind, maximums that could be given out. I am aware of at least 3 applications that would all come in at around that $30,000. So it will be similar to perhaps the on-track fund, where we will have to discuss, go through and reassess that and that time frame around it. Councillor Frank.
Thank you, Worship. I think that needs to be made very, very clear in any comms at all, because if you've already applied and you see this and you don't grasp fully that actually I got 10,000, but I could have got 20,000, I could have 30,000, do I get that automatically? That's going to have to be made very, very clear, and it does actually make it quite a big workload as well. So it's going to be quite big to manage.
Look, absolutely it does. And I think one of the things too is that anybody that has made an application, we do have that email address. So we've got a good starting base that something could go out, and that would have to be worked through with recovery comms as well. Yeah. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Tracy. There's 93 to date, correct? On this? 23 applications. Or 93 paid out applications, yeah? Leaving a balance of $186,000, give it $10. So is there I'm not being a pessimist, I'm being a realist. If this happens tomorrow, that money's pulled for it again? Or is it for the last Gabriel or Gabriel 2?
This fund was specifically for Cyclone Gabrielle. There is one other fund that sits within council, which is Mayoral Relief Flood Fund, but this was specifically set up for Cyclone Gabrielle.
So pray it doesn't. If there is Gabriel 2, Gabriel 1, you get my drift, they could overlap each other. And if you're in Gabriel 1 and you've been paid, then Gabriel 2 comes along and Gabriel 1's gone and you need more Gabriel 2. I'm trying to make that money more flexible.
It would start again. So the government's contribution to this fund was $150,000, which was specifically for Cyclone Gabrielle, and the fund was set up as Cyclone Gabrielle. So any further cyclone or earthquake event would be another separate event.
So just getting it clear, that money would have to be applied for to get it into the next event. It wouldn't just automatically go in the pool.
No, the intention would be that people have given this money specifically to assist those with Cyclone Gabrielle. So this account would be cleared down to zero, and a new one would be, a new relief fund would be set up and hopefully matched by the government. But like I said, there is that small portion that it already exists for the flood, and the Manawatu Wanganui Regional Disaster Fund also has some funds which they donated to this, but would look at again. So it would start right back from scratch. Councillor Franklin, can I just check in that you're comfortable with that in this process? There was no amendment you wish to move?
No, thank you, Your Worship. No, it's clear. Thank you.
Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I am fully in support of the recommendation. I think when I was looking at this paper, I was very, very mindful that this is not council money. This is money that has come from the government and has come from individuals who very, very, very generously wanted to support people that were impacted by that cyclone. Absolutely hearing what Councillor Franklin was saying about applications that perhaps went through that may have been worthy of receiving more. This is really where I believe the spirit of this fund lands. So going through exactly what Councillor Petty-Webber was talking about before, helping as many people as possible, I feel like we have gone through that stage over the first year of having a lower amount to be able to help as many people as we can. We still have a large balance left, but people seriously, even a year down the track, seriously still in need. So I wholeheartedly support that, and I think that those limits represent the ability to give some of those people in desperate need even more help. So.
Thank you, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Long.
Mayor Tracy, some of this money was also donated by other councils as well. Was that correct? Thank you. Right. Right. So a couple of things there. This has to be crystal clear that this money it's a help. It's not a full. So there's budgets being done on a lot of this work, isn't there?
Individual farms and those impacted would be starting to understand the full scope of it. It would be their budget. So for us, we're just looking, on an application rate after each meeting, what the balance is. But there hasn't been any further funds come into this account for some time.
Are we aware of the amount of people that are out there still requiring assistance financial?
Whilst we don't have names, I guess for me, if I look at it, we've made 93 payments out. I know there was 126 applications to the On Track fund. I know people that haven't applied because it just it's a drop in the bucket in comparison. And I guess there is that overarching thought that there is just so much damage to so many that some just always feel that there are more in need and greater than themselves. So it is really hard, but I'm hoping that with the promotion, with going back to all of those, just having a talk to the recovery team, some of those that have come through the on-track system, they may not have all been captured in the mayoral applications. And of course, the mayoral applications covered much wider. It wasn't just on farm, it was businesses, it was road closures, it was a wider level. So I think that opening it up, a little bit like Councillor Petty-Webber, I know that there might be few that get that full $30,000, but I'm hoping that we can help as many as we can.
And that's the reason why I asked that question, because I feel that I support Councillor Petty-Webber to do something like 20,000 and 5,000 and those figures, so that it's spread out more to more people. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Long, and we can have a chat at the end. But the panel do have that discretion. I'm sure that before making that, they would make sure that applications were open and then have a look and work out and assess some of that need, because there's no way we'll be able to assist everybody to the full depth that they have been impacted, even though it looks like a lot of money. It looks like a lot of money. Okay, councillor Wards and councillor Chase.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I'd like to reassure Councillor Long that the agencies that have worked in this recovery space with our team over the last year have focused really hard on gathering the data. There's been a number of surveys conducted in the rural area where they've got a pretty good handle on the extent of, in particular, the financial impact on many of these rural spaces. One of the agencies in particular, Rural Support Trust, who I know are part of involved in the recovery team, have been very focused on ensuring that we have the data and the facts to be able to support the assessment that goes on by the assessment team when it comes to these applications. So those agencies have taken this very seriously, and it's, as I think Councillor Gilmore reflected, it wasn't the big emotional rush at the start, almost a year ago, but there are agencies that now have some very strong facts to support applications to this level.
Thank you, councillor Wards. And I think one of the key messages that I'd give it is that Tararua has been slow and steady in applying these funds. We could have gone hard and fast, and we would have absolutely wouldn't have had a balance remaining in that fund. But the level and impact of for some of those people impacted, it takes a wee while, and it takes a wee while to be able to ask for help. So we've had a lot to go through, but the panel has been very, very committed, knowing the sacrifice that people have made to donate to this fund to make sure that every cent was spent incredibly wisely. So I do very much thank the panel for that. Councillor Chase.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. My understanding of it, because I support this proposal, to be honest. I'm thinking that these are just limits. They're not necessarily what they will totally get per application as an individual. I have all the faith in that the panel will actually go through these applications and see, well, you actually don't need the 10 grand, you probably need 5 to support that. So we will be still able to help as many families as we can. And I support the limits as it is in the proposal.
Nice. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, I'll just read through, and I do agree that those won't be targets, they'll be discussed. So the recommendation's been moved by Councillor Wards. 1.1, that the report from the Chief Executive dated the 24th of January 2024 concerning the Mayoral Relief Fund criteria be received. That the Council note the change in the grant criteria to allow for grants up to the following limits: $10,000 for individuals and $30,000 for community groups, farmers, businesses, including sole entrepreneurs and marae. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Wallace. If I move through to portfolio reports, are there any councillors that would like to run through their portfolios? Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Worship. With my Akatio Pongarai hat on, just wish to report that council and some the council staff were very busy at our little gem of a treasure spot at Akatio over the Christmas and New Year break. It's fair to say you've all been involved in some of the communiques around the water issues that we had out there. I just wish to express the thanks to some of the locals out there, including the Akatio Ratepayers Association, for their very positive support in trying to address the the very genuine issues that we had regarding the lack of water at Akatio. I'm looking forward to a review of that, of what happened over the timeline and the actions that were taken, and look forward to seeing that coming through the infrastructure committee to come back to a full council meeting to understand what happened and on the short term and long term what we're able to do. It was a stunning summer out there. It still is, and I'm very pleased to see the actions, the quick actions that were taken by council staff when they were alerted to the very tough situation where pretty much ran out of water out there. So wouldn't like to see that again. There's always something happening in Akatio, as would be the point over a summer break. So otherwise, all is well. It's good to see some of the road maintenance and upgrades that are going on out there. There are still parts of the River Road which obviously need some work, but parts of it are like a 3-lane highway. So and the locals are really appreciating the input on that. So just a quick update from that, Your Worship.
Thank you. And the Akatio community is always very engaged. They have their Ratepayers Association meeting on the 2nd of January, so it was very timely to be out there at that point. So I certainly did commit to that review, really looking forward to that. And it was normally I'll go in one way, so enter Akatio through River Road, and it was an absolute pleasure to drive through the Marananga Gorge on the way home and just see that everything was in place and as it should be. And just noting the enormous amount of work that has been carried out on the roads. As much as we feel the impact of the recovery, and we're still going through that, I had a look at some pictures just of where we've come from to what we're looking at now. And, we can still see lots of cones and lots of damage, and it's very easy to forget. But by jingos, when you have a look at those pictures, it brought it back. In fact, it raised the hairs on my arms just seeing where we have come from. So that was great. Thank you, Councillor Wards. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just got a couple of things to report. The recent Walk the Highway event was a fantastic success. 1,500 people attending to walk over the new highway. I just wanted to reiterate thanks again to the eyesight team for their support when it came to ticketing. It was a very, very popular event, and I think that perhaps they were busier than they expected, but they did an incredible job. And actually, I had heard from a couple of people, I was volunteering on the day, about how great the service was with ticketing. So, so hats off to them. Brilliant work. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention was the Rinatawa Young Artists exhibition opening. It's really pleased to go along to that with Mayor Tracy, councillors Chase and Johns. A brilliant exhibition that I really encourage councillors to get along to. So there's young artists within our district displaying their incredible talents. So a brilliant thing on. And just lastly, the Woodville Motocross, which attended over the weekend into its 61st year, wasn't able to go ahead the last 2 years, one with flooding, the year before with COVID, but an incredible day there as well that I attended along with Her Worship. So just wanted to mention that. Quite a lot going on over summer and over that month. Some brilliant things for our district.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. And likewise, I think when I left the Rinatawa Gallery, I did actually make a suggestion that they put the artist's age beside the work, because there was one particular artist that when I learned her age, I wouldn't have believed that. So we've got some real up and coming talent. So if you get a chance to, certainly go and have a look at that. So thank you. And it was nice to see everything run smoothly for the motocross, especially after that 2-year break, and the reviews and the comments from those that took part have been really great. Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Tracy. My report on my patch in the district is, as you know, Norsewood, Makutiku and Ormanville. We had water, but we've got a water issue, but it's different to yours. But anyhow, the good news is I'm working with people at the moment because getting communications to Norsewood. So I've been very lucky over the last day or two. Some information's come forward from the operations team, which we're collating, and we've got a meeting set up. As you know, this weekend or coming up, we also got involved with the AMP show, which I'll be down there, and the Viking job out at Norsewood. But Norsewood is on the turn, so hopefully we'll have some happy people.
District, can I just check? I sent an email out wanting to set up a community catch up so that the team could talk about that. I've got some names. Is that included? Is that you're working on the same thing, or you?
After the last meeting we had here, everything I do, you're CC'd into. So and you and Brian, so we're all in the same walker, rowing it the same way. Okay.
Awesome. Actually, if you're, it might not, yeah, in Norsewood, they'll probably have a few boats and a few Vikings out. Might not be, it is going to be huge crowds. I'm already hearing, in fact, I was in Wellington and heard people coming through to Norsewood. So as they pass through Genevieve, those two big events on this weekend, we're going to have a lot of people in the district. Councillor Franklin, did you have anything from passenger transport that you wish to reflect back on?
Thank you, Worship. No, not yet, because I haven't heard back from organising a meeting with Sam, the chair. I have followed up with Alan Bembo, our Horizons representative, and asked for a meeting with him so we can find out where things are at. It seems to be sitting in limbo, or we're just not hearing anything more, so I'm getting a bit concerned, and we need his help to get this moving. So, but while I'm at it, can I also mention the this year we've started already organising the 80th anniversary of the Polish Children Reunion, which is very exciting. As you're well aware, there aren't a lot of the Polish children with us anymore, but their families, their extended families, are just so keen to keep this going. That's their fondness for Pahiatua and what Pahiatua did for them during World War II and following. And so we've had our first meeting, and now we are looking at how we're going to get some funding, which is really vital. It's not going to be inexpensive to run. There's a lot of costs involved, and so there will be some hands being put out for some assistance somewhere along the line. So Gilda is on that now, but we've got a really good, strong committee, good representation, and I think it should be a pretty moving ceremony again this time round. So we've all got a few jobs we have to do between now and our next meeting, which is only a week or so away. But it's a really exciting thing coming up. And for me personally, knowing that I'm going to be able to go to Kazimierz, our sister town in Poland, in July is really exciting and really kind of feeds well into this. So it's something that our community need our young people to carry on. The high school hasn't done anything with it yet, but St. Anthony's and Pahiatua Primary School have climbed right on board. It is in their curriculum for the year. And so this is part of Lest We Forget. These children need to know what those young children went through, the 744 of them that travelled out here. So it is a part of our history that is really vital, and our museum is very vital. So we've got to be doing some more work, I think, to help our museums as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franklin. I did catch up with Gilda over Christmas and talk a little bit both around the reunion. I'm going to catch up with the ambassador, but also around Purana and the potential of writing that very, very special book as well. So yeah, really look forward to that. It's certainly something to be celebrated. And the Polish Memorial is looking fantastic as well. The Bissets are doing a great job. Yeah. Councillor Wallace.
Can I just mention one thing that did happen over the long weekend with a young chap started that models extravaganza, and I know the guy, and he asked for some help, which I'll now, anyhow, long story short, top guy, didn't cost anyone anything, and you should have seen, went down to it, and the young guy he had a blow up castle and which he owns himself. He put all that on free for the kids and watching these kids' faces. So what I'm trying to say here, I'd like to, he doesn't ask for money, by the way. He just asks to be and turn up. But I'd just like to, I don't know how we can congratulate him. I know it's been a lot in the papers and that, but I think, and because the next day we had Wheels with Attitude, which was started with 5 years ago I was involved with, and that was started with the local Lions. So it just shows you good attitudes and thriving districts, it'll work. So I think there's a lot more good than, the doom and gloom.
Thanks, Councillor Wallace. I agree, and I did speak with some of them. One of the requests that did come through that I'd like to chat a bit further with the Dannevirke Community Board around is just, maybe a summer series or some more use of the domain where people get together and gather, because, some of these people and volunteers have put on some fantastic events that have been enjoyed by so many people. Can I just double check, because when I did have read in the paper and saw the traction on that. I wasn't able to make it to that event. Was that the same request that we had for the use of the old BMX track for that group and organisation?
Yeah, there's 2 people involved. He had his trucks inside, but then it was huge. I mean, there was helicopters out on the oval, and then there was drifting cars on the other stage. So there's 2 different guys involved. So yeah, but this is for an event size. But yeah, I think if he wants to go down to the BMX track and it's available, by all means,
We did speak in public forum, so I was just aware that I hadn't seen anything further, and I just thought I'd follow that one up. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Is there anything further from anyone? No. Thank you, councillors. Just on mural matters, we did have some sharing successes, which I've over the holiday period with some world records, which was fantastic. So I'll get some congratulations letters out for those. And the other acknowledgement that I wanted to make is that today is Grace's last meeting with us. And Grace won't be in New Zealand for much longer, so she's got some exciting things happening. But Grace, I just want to thank you for everything that you have done for us, and we've really noticed the difference having you on board, and appreciate it very much. So we wish you all the very, very best for the future, and you are very welcome back in New Zealand and here anytime you wish to return. Thank you. Okay, there are no items included in the agenda. I will close the formal part of the meeting. We'll move into public excluded. Can I have somebody move us into public excluded? Then I'll adjourn the meeting because I think the Manawatu Standard just wants to catch up with Trudy here just on recovery. So if I can have someone move us into public excluded. Councillor Chase, seconded Councillor Petty-Weber. All those in favour, please say aye. And I will adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes for a cuppa, and if anyone has any questions.